channel. Today we're going to do a quick little painting using casein, which is a water soluble paint that is using milk protein as its binder. And we're going to paint a little simple scene. Not so simple, it's complicated, but we're going to simplify it. It's going to be something like this. We're just going to focus on these interesting roots to this tree and this kind of marshy soil with the glow in the background, which is going to change pretty rapidly because the sun's high or getting higher minute by minute here. Kind of mid-morning, early to mid-morning, and we're going to try and paint for about an hour, and then I'm going to hustle back to the home office and get to work. So here's my setup. It's my small little watercolor rig, little discount store reclaimed tripod plugged into this, little magnets throughout this little holder, watercolor holder with my clips, and we'll get started. I'm just going to set aside my phone here and make sure that you can see my easel, and we will get started. Sorry for the little choppiness here as we get set up. There you go. And we'll zoom in right about there so you can see we're going to be painting on a 7-inch by 5-inch cradled wood panel. I was going to go with square format, a little larger, but after kind of considering this scene for a moment, it feels like rectangle will just serve the scene a little bit more justice. You never know. Part art, part science when it comes to design and composition. It's funny, one of the things about casein is that it starts to smell a little funky if it's left around. And I had some wet paper towel and brushes with some casein in them, and it really was smelling pretty horrible. So it's just a warning to you if you are thinking about pursuing maybe some experimentation with casein. You want to keep everything clean, otherwise it'll smell. And the paint itself has a little bit of a weird smell. I'm going to start out with some raw sienna. I'm going to put a little wash of raw sienna in there, kind of an earthy, semi-transparent tone that can bring some luminosity to the painting. And hoping I have all my supplies. I'm a little disorganized today. Brushing a really thin coat of this raw sienna across my surface here, which again is cradled wood panel with white gesso on it. And this has been sitting in my bag for quite a few painting sessions, so it's got some nicks on it and some residue of some paint, so it's a little bit of a mess. That's okay. From here, dry for a moment, and map out some of the values. umber. Probably look for my Shiva violet. Raw sienna, maybe the lightest mid-tone. Raw umber, considerably darker value, and then mixture of raw umber and Shiva violet will give us our darkest value most likely, or close to it. And we're going to go ahead and account for some of those darker values. Darkest values will be in the wet leaves, especially those that are in shadow. Some of the root system, the trees will be considerably darker. Trees themselves will have kind of a silvery gray, and we're laying in a layer of the Shiva purple, almost pure Shiva purple. In the trees. Probably going to change angles for you just so you can see a little better. Hopefully, so I do this in a way where I don't consistently block your view. Let's see. All right. And probably apply the clip at this point. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Just a mess right now. Not much to it. It's just a general slopping on some of the basic shapes representing the values that I see in the scene, which is changing. The light's changing quite a bit. Right now we're a little overcast. All right. Do one more check to make sure that you can still see. There we go. here in the Poconos and painting on the banks of Blue Mountain Lake. I'm just making a mess for now. Letting this dry. This is, again, casein, water-soluble paint. Dries pretty quickly. It's a lot like watercolor, only doesn't typically reactivate once it's fully dried like watercolor does. Okay. Refine some of these. See, it's already dry, which is part of the magic with casein. Layer upon layer upon layer can be applied. Adding a little Shiva green. And we're on the black, which is a pretty nice neutral. I've never worked with it before up until recently. I like it a lot. And my big flat brush, and we're just going to keep working these bigger shapes. Darker greens. Just graying it out by mixing in some raw sienna and raw umber into the Shiva green. And Shiva green is a real strong green. a spot flat brush. Solution's a little too watery. I'm going to add some more raw umber, some more green, raw sienna. Some indication, some of the darker tones within the moss. All right, let that dry for a second. I'm just going to show you what I'm looking at here. This is the scene. So I just thought this was interesting. You have some trees leaning in, trying to find sunlight on the shores of Blue Mountain Lake. Some good contrasts, some interesting light effects and shapes. And we're going to try and capture that here. Just the impression using casein. Yeah, and we are a small channel, so virtually nobody watches, but that's okay. I will tell you, as a part-time painter, filming my painting process, processing video content, sharing my thoughts and things that I learned while painting have helped me advance over the past 3 years. So if you check out some of the works on my channel, live, some painted live, some pre-recorded, shorts, and so on and so forth, you'll get a sense for how I've advanced. A big part of that is actually this process of sharing and also being able to replay oftentimes simple time-lapse videos. So and occasionally I'll sell a piece or gain a commission assignment as a result of these sorts of videos. So the fact that I have a small audience doesn't bother me. Actually, matter of fact, given where I am in my painting journey, I'm kind of grateful it's a small audience, because I think I have a long way to go to get to the level of skill that I'm aspiring to attain over the years that come, if I'm lucky enough. So I'm letting this dry. This is casein, water-soluble base paint. I'm repeating myself, I know, but it's a little lesser known medium. It's ancient. It's been around since, for tens of thousands of years. It's been found in cave paintings. It's a milk protein that's used as the binder. It's water-soluble, dries fast, doesn't reactivate when it gets wet again. It could be a great underpainting medium. It could be a great medium for final paintings as well. So growing to appreciate it as another tool in the tool bag here as a painter. And I'm gonna go ahead and wipe, you know what, actually, my little palette here is just an old pencil box lid. And eventually I'll wipe this clean. I'm gonna keep this on here for now. I'm probably gonna add a little bit of cad yellow, cad orange, and white, and maybe even a little bit of ultramarine blue. Let's see. Actually, I'm going to start with that ultramarine blue and white. tone, gray it out a little bit. There's a little bit of a gray morning here. Some storms passed through last night, and the cloud cover is still here on and off, patchy clouds. So we get some of that. I'm not going to try and replicate it perfectly. Just want to give ourselves a baseline for what some of the lighter tones are going to look like in this painting. Go a little bit lighter. We're still in some areas. I'll go over this a few times, so these shapes will be adjusted. Just laying in some initial notes, trying to give some indication as to the contrast, lights and darks that you'll see. Onto the palette here. I'll use it to get some of the lighter tonal colors within the brown plane. Switch to a different brush. Still a large brush, which will allow me to just get a greater variety of shapes as opposed to the flat brush that I was using. And I'm going to go in and get some of these lighter green shades in. I'm going to mix cad yellow with my Shiva green, a little bit of cad orange. I'll brown it and gray it a little bit along with some raw sienna. There we go. So we got some of the lighter tones, not the lightest, but some of the lighter tones within the moss. And then I have to, realizing sooner than later, I'm going to have to gray out that tree, or the trees in general. They're a little too purple. challenge here will be to avoid going too light in tone too quickly and too cool too quickly with color temperature. So just going to be careful not to go too fast here. Let's gray this out. It's very purple right now. Light shifting, cloud cover thickened up a little bit here, so it's a much darker scene than it was just moments ago. It's part of the challenge with plein air painting. It's changing environment, so you need to have some memory of what you saw just moments ago and be able to keep that kind of locked in your mind so you don't drift too far away and create challenges for yourself by chasing the changing light conditions too much. Increase the contrast selectively in some areas here. Here at the base of the tree where there's some little notches and holes and cast shadows by some of the roots. That's where you're going to see some of the darkest values within the painting. I just want to re-emphasize that so I don't lose them. Well, I'm going to show you through the trees here, peering through the trees. You can see, if I can find it here, there we go. Interesting silhouette reflected of the shoreline and the trees in the distance. We're going to try and create a little indication of that before we get too far along. And they're also going to lighten up the tree bark as well on the painting itself. So we'll try and work that in as we go here in the near term. And we're going to try and make some pretty swift progress of that so we can wrap up in less than an hour. Okay. We'll start with kind of a bluish, purplish green. Gray out with orange. And a little bit of cad yellow. Put that in. strokes. Find that that does a good job of creating the indication of the illusion of reflections in water. And we're going to have to lighten that up a little bit. It's a little too heavy, a little too dark. So we'll get a little bit of yellow, a little bit of titanium white, break up that shape a little bit. We could reestablish those trees if they get destroyed, no problem. And there's a couple of outliers, some taller trees. And one of the interesting things about casein, because it dries so fast, and I learned this from James Gurney, who I watch all of his videos, it allows you to paint over edges and lines because the paint will completely dry. And it's a big help to be able to do that confidently because it helps you avoid a situation where you have white spaces peeking through unintentionally. It also helps create some illusions, especially that of distance and depth, a little bit more effectively. I'm going to bring some blue into this color, and we're going to use it to darken some of the areas closer to the shoreline. I'll also create some atmospheric illusions, pushing that part of the scene back a little bit because blue recedes. And then use a little bit of a lighter blue in various spots just to break that up a little bit. And we'll come back to that and probably paint back up into this edge with white. Gray out that tree. We got a little bit of orange and burnt umber and white. Even though it's gray, I want to keep it as warm as I can for as long as I can. Use a little half circle strokes. Try and indicate the shape within the shape, the roundness of that tree trunk. Put another layer in to lighten it up even more in a moment. A little bit more orange in there. Some of these other lighten up some of the roots as well. We don't want to lose those darker tones because that's going to help create some three-dimensionality within these roots. So you want to be careful not to lose those darker edges because we do see shadows toward the bottoms of those shapes. There's some roots that kind of peek out after they're covered by moss and then they peek out. Kind of an interesting network here. tree shape a little bit. I'll bring some lighter green in here. It got a little too wide. It's normal for the base of the tree to be wider than the top and have a nice little taper, but I went a little too far. So we'll fix that. Green and this gray. Dry brushing in an indication of some of the moss that's growing on the tree itself, because I don't want there to be thick blobs of paint with these marks. I want it to be broken brush strokes. It's about as light as that tree is going to get. There'll be a few, and depending upon the changes in light, a few adjustments, changes in light conditions, I should say here. But mostly I'm going to adjust the background and play with the edges. And some of the marks that are used to kind of indicate some of the broken bark on the tree. You get a general sense for the approach that I'm taking there. Not looking to create a photorealistic copy of the scene, more of an impression. Bear with me here while I adjust my camera. All right, probably leave it there for the rest of the time I work on this. bring some cool grays into there. Some indication of some of these warmer lights bouncing off trees further on back in the scene. Established in the dark areas for sure because I'm inadvertently clumsiness in my brush strokes, deleting some of them, but that's okay. All right, there we go. Now, further off in the distance, we have some ripples on the water, which are catching some of the light in the morning sky here, and it's a little bit of a warmer reflection off in the distance. I'm going to account for that. Excuse me, anything that breaks up big blocky shapes can help. I don't want to be too fine with these brush strokes because it is something off in the distance. We want that to recede, kind of working against the fact that it's a warmer color. Let's see. I'm going to go in and work on the foreground a little bit here. Different brush. Fan brush. I don't want to use a liner brush. Oh, here we go. Use this little guy. Nylon haired brush. What is this? This is inexpensive. Number 3. Cat orange. You know what? I gotta get a little bit of my rose on my palette. Shiva rose. Shiva rose, cat orange, and raw sienna. I'm going to account for some of the shade in and amongst the fallen leaves. A little bit more orange. Some of the mid-tone black in there to gray it out a little bit. Just random shapes. Use that same color to warm up some of these cool gray areas. There's a couple of hints here and there. Going to darken that puddle. Actually bring it into my raw umber and kind of warm that up a little bit. And I'm going to use that. Some of these trees in the distance, they have on the shadow side pretty dark tone. So use that. I had a lot of coffee today, so my hand's a little shaky. It's one vice that I'm having a hard time giving up. some of the bark is peeling away on this tree in the foreground. Maybe we'll try and honor that a little bit. See if we can get that effect going. Okay. Some color to indicate maybe some shapes in amongst some of the branches, swooping down. And paint over these. So they don't need to be perfect. Purple in there. Just want to create the illusion of there being branches draping down or drooping down. Some of these shapes. Getting there. Probably use our liner brush. I don't want to rush too far ahead, but we'll create some indication of some of this brush on the shoreline, some of these branches for these shrubs and stuff sticking up. We'll save that for the very end. What I'm going to do is use this brush, dip into my green yellow mixture here with a little bit of blue. And I think the shape of this brush will be helpful. Almost dry brush, kind of create some variance amongst the shape here used to indicate the reflections in the water. A little too uniform. We'll come back over with the white and use the same kind of strokes. Break this up a little bit. All right, now use some blue, some green, some cad yellow, lots of cad yellow. Indicate some of the highlights on the moss. These are a really light touch in most instances, especially further away. of the mound of the moss is round or bulbous, and the light is hitting this side of the moss. So it's a little more yellow, a little more intense. Try and account for that. Greener, bluer version of that here. Areas where the moss is there, but it's in the shade for shadow. Tree. Okay. Now I'm going to lighten up some of the leaves in this area because they are catching some both direct light and reflected light from the water. There's a couple of different versions of the green in that area. Have a much brighter orangey yellow version. Much more yellow orange. Not a lot. Just a few areas. Probably as far as we're going to take this for now. Scraping in some lines. This tree is almost the focal point of this painting. So when we finish this off, we're going to want to have good sense of those illusions of detail. I'm going to get my liner brush out and finish up at least the session on site here with some indication of some more of the details, like the twigs and branches and some of the highlights on the bark. And then we'll hike back home and maybe we'll finish this up sometime over the next couple of days. But I'm going to use my liner brush and indications of sort of gray highlights in this area. This tree in general on this side where the light is filtering in. Similar. Definitely blue and white. Put that into these areas to create the illusion of more brush, and also go side to side. Water, okay. And then we're going to do the same thing in the sky holes. I'll lighten that up quite a bit. Sit back and look at this from a distance. All right, there's quite a few adjustments that we're going to make in studio in order to finish this little painting, but I think we're off to a decent start. We have some areas that we're going to need to fix up, some additional illusions of detail. I'll take a couple of additional reference photos before I wrap up, and we'll go ahead and hike on back home. and finish this up in studio. The finished version I'll put up on my website, and it'll be available. The price will be listed there, description of the process, size. It'll likely be available unframed, and will ship to any part of the United States and just about anywhere else free of charge, unless the cost is prohibited. Then we'll ask, if anybody's interested in purchasing this painting, to we'll ask the purchaser to kind of kick in for shipping costs. But we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. This is kind of the scene that we're focused on here. Took some creative, poetic license, but appreciate the small audience that checked out my video. You can reach out to me if you're interested by commenting, and also by visiting my site at thomasmichaelnieman.com. Hope you have a wonderful day, and maybe we'll see you again sometime soon. Take care.